Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have an incredible show for you today. Lots to get into. You're going to get some Marvel versus Capcom Infinite running in the background. And unfortunately, we're going to start with a little bit of sad news. Our brother 3-Bit is going to be leaving the show for a bit. He has some professional obligations that he's going to be taking care of. And but he's going to be coming back, so don't worry about that. 3-Bit, welcome back, dude. And unfortunately, you got to take your stage left, but you will be back at some point.
Heck yeah, I'll definitely be back. I love you guys. I love podcasting and all that. It's just, life when life happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, excited to be here. Pong, Zemi, excited to talk with some of these topics with you guys, and always a pleasure being on the shows with you, Boom. You definitely are the reason why I love podcasting and love doing it. Back when I had like 2 followers, Boom put me on the show. So always appreciate it.
You know what? Listen, you earned your spot. You're smart. You know the business. You are both a developer and a gamer. That's a great trait to have in this podcasting industry. And listen, we love having you. And again, we will get you back eventually. Next up, the bravest man who almost was weeping in tears that the zombie game that we were expecting to come out in December has been pushed back to February. My God, Zemi, how are you feeling?
I'm doing okay. I'm perfectly okay. I'm actually a little bit upset though that I ended up wasting some money because I love FMV games. They're like live action movies where you choose different options during it. And Wales Interactive is one of my favorite developers, and I bought one of their games a long time ago and just finally got to playing it last night, and almost immediately turned it off because it was scarier than what I anticipated it being. And that game's called I Saw Black Clouds. And so
I bought that. I have to play it. It's scary.
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
Like there's this part, this woman, she's walking, this big, I don't know about big, like this ghost hand comes from underneath like some piece of furniture and scared me to death. Had to turn it off. Couldn't do it. But so that was $15 I wasted. Anyway, super excited to be here. Not upset really at all that Dying Light got delayed. It just doesn't impact me personally. But yeah, super excited to be here and talk about all these topics that you have lined up for us, man.
Well, thank you so much, brother. And it's going to be fun as always. Pong, so my brother from another. Half the battle of us living split screen on Saturdays. What's up, dude? How you feeling?
Doing great, Boom. Of course, it's Tuesday, one of my favorite days of the week. Why? Because it's Xbox Factor Podcast Day. That's right. And got both Zemi, got 3-Bit here. Sad to hear that 3-Bit's got to take some vacation, but that is what it is. Real life always first. But no, it's a great day. God, man, there's been so much to play. It's just incredible. You know what? I'm actually kind of
time.
I know. I'm actually kind of happy about Dying Light 2 getting moved, and I'm kind of happy that next year I'm going to get to enjoy Deathloop once it hits Xbox, because I don't know where I'd find the time for some of these games. So good to be here, Boom. We got some great topics to get into, so I'm ready to talk as always. So let's get down to it.
It's great to have you. Real quick, we're going to thank our first super chat of the day. RNF drops a very generous $2 super chat. It's good morning, crew. What's everyone playing today? I am playing some The Artful Escape, and it is gorgeous. I'm only an hour or so into it. Again, folks, I just wish I'm buying Deathloop. Like I was going to buy it digitally, and I'm saying to myself, what if I don't fall in love with the game? So I'm going to go pick it up right after the show. Listen, we're going to get into it, our thoughts and how big of a deal this actually is for PlayStation 5 proper, but more so on the back end, how important this is going to be for the team at Arkane, and now that they're first party, what this means for the inevitable sequel. But I do want to open up with what we were talking about in the pregame, and that is the message that was sent out on the socials from Techland, makers of Dying Light 2, Stay Human. And unfortunately, has been officially delayed. And I'm going to read what the CEO had to say. He says this: "Hello, everyone. Today we have an important news to share with you about the development progress of Dying Light 2 Stay Human. It has always been our company's goal to build transparent and honest communications with our community, fans, and gamers. Every day, we strive to grow in this element. The team is steadily progressing with the production, and the game is nearing the finish line. The game is complete, and we are currently playtesting it. It is by far the biggest and most ambitious project we've ever done. Unfortunately, we've realized for us to bring the game to the level of Envision, we need more time to polish and optimize it. That is why we have decided to move the release date to February 4th, 2022. We're sorry to keep you all waiting a little longer, but we want the game to meet your highest expectations on release, and we don't want to compromise on this. However, you won't have to wait too long to get a deeper look into Dying Light 2 Stay Human. Next month, both press and content creators will get their hands on PC and console versions of the game during the upcoming series of preview events around the world. They'll be able to share their experiences of the city with you. In the meantime, we'd like to thank all of our fans around the world. Without your support and feedback, we would never have come so far on this journey. In addition to our regular updates, we'll be gearing up to share some more exciting news about the game later this month. Stay safe, and more importantly, stay human." Pong Soul, I want to go to you first on this. Now, this is actually both a surprise and a relief for two reasons, in my opinion. Number one, I love the fact that they are forthcoming. I love the fact that the game is currently not in a state that they feel it's ready to be put out to the masses. Nobody wants to release a broken game, right? We know the old Miyamoto quote. But also, originally, it was supposed to release 2 days after Halo Infinite, and quite frankly, that's a death sentence, at least in my opinion. Are you okay with this delay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always okay with delays at this point in life, especially with as much content as we've got coming out. It really doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm kind of happy in a way, and I think this really does. I'm sure they have polish that they do have to get done, but I kind of expected this after the Halo announcement. It's the Halo effect. Yes. Look, it's two different genres. There was fans on both sides. I saw people, much like myself, who were like, hey, Halo is fantastic, but I'm definitely going to be playing Dying Light 2 when it does hit in December as well. But I did see a ton of people as well just saying, hey, Dying Light 2 is going to be on the back burner for a long time until I get done playing. Well, we're never going to be done playing Halo, but you know what I mean, until we get through that initial
campaign
just
run,
massive playthroughs of Halo, right? So I think that a lot went into this. February next year is stacked already.
Dude, it is ridiculous.
Yeah, with Horizon being there, Forbidden West being there, you got you got the Masquerade, supposedly Vampire the Masquerade's going to be there. There's a bunch of games that month, so they're not necessarily putting themselves in an even better spot. But again, with Halo being Halo, I think it was kind of a death sentence to have if they were going to stay there. It would have been rough going, especially for the first couple months. And then you got to hope that people remember your games around as more games are coming out. So I like the move. I'm glad they did it. It just, again, with how many games we have coming on a consistent basis, really at this point, delays don't bother me at all. I mean, even, as much as I was looking forward to Starfield, even when they said it was going to be next year, I was like, okay, it is what it is. I'm disappointed. I really want to play Starfield. It's my most anticipated game. But at the end of the day, I'm going to still have tons and tons of things to play and to get through. So it really doesn't matter to me. So yeah, no, this is fine. This is good. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, you know what, and I agree. Certainly not the biggest announcement of the year, but it makes perfect sense. I said, this is it's Dying Light has always been pitched as a single player game that has multiplayer aspects, but this time around, the way the world is so big, I'm expecting that they're going to be.
Yeah, I forgot we got Saints Row in February too next year.
Yeah,
Jeez, I totally forgot
and
about that.
you know what? Unannounced, but we also might have Breath of the Wild 2, which could potentially come out in February. It would just ridiculous.
Woo! That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, 100%. Zemi Games, I know once again you're devastated, but listen,
I was crying all night.
I couldn't console him, folks.
Yeah.
This is a game that is highly anticipated. We know that Microsoft is heavily into the marketing of the game. I feel it would have been a mistake to try and release right after Halo. Are you surprised by the delay? What are your thoughts on it? Is it the Halo effect?
You know, we were talking pre-show, and I think that the idea that they want to make this game perfect and that they probably found something that needed fixing, that they needed more time for, I think that that's really the main reason why they're delaying it. The whole Halo idea could definitely contribute to it. I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it is, we were talking about this pre-show. The way I look at it is I think that there's actually more advantages of launching it after Halo in December than postponing it to February, because there's a lot of games that are coming out in February. And after the holiday rush, a lot of people are going to be low on cash. And so, to me, I think it's kind of, maybe better to release it, in December, right after Halo. Another thing too, though, is Halo's a free game, right? Not free. Let me apologize real quick, because people get really upset, but it's in Game Pass, right? And incredible
it's
value.
Free to play, at least the multiplayer aspect as well. I thought that's where you were going.
Yeah, for sure. So people aren't going to be lobbing $60 at it necessarily. And so, having Dying Light come out, or Dying Light 2 come out, right after that, I don't necessarily think it hurts it as much as what people are thinking. That's just my opinion, though. Overall, they did delay it. It doesn't really, matter to me very much. Wasn't going to play it anyway. But whenever a studio delays a game, it's always a good thing, right? And I truly believe that. We've seen countless examples of studios that probably should have delayed and didn't, and faced some pretty negative backlash. Hashtag Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red. So just them delaying it, I think, is better for the game overall, regardless of whatever reason we want to come up with. I'm kind of more, siding with, I think it's more of, them wanting to polish it than they're afraid of, coming out with the game right next to Halo. I think the main reason why they're doing this is definitely because they want to polish it more. They want to make sure that it's the game that they all envisioned, pretty much, what that, press release announcement letter to the fans, basically, from the CEO said.
I mean, listen, again, it makes perfect sense what you're saying. So again, certainly not the biggest topic of the day, but 3-Bits, as a designer yourself, putting out a broken project could do unfixable damage. Everyone is looking forward to this game. Are you surprised with the delay? And do you think that Pong might be onto something? Is it the Halo effect?
Yeah, I mean, releasing next to Halo Infinite, any game there are, it could be a death sentence, but there are huge releases of games coming out in February. And it's something Pong and Zemi both mentioned, right? There's Vampire Masquerade, there's Saints Row. I think Horizon Forbidden West is also in February. You got King of Fighters. You have Elden Ring, I believe, is also in February.
Yes, Elden Ring is February as well. Jesus.
So I'm hoping that they didn't just run into an additional wall, right? Avoiding Halo, you're like, you just run into another wall. Because I do think this game does deserve some attention especially after so long of this game trying to come out. And the more I see about Dying Light 2, the better it looks. And more polish is always good to have, though. And this game is pretty ambitious to compared to the previous installment, with like your actions and how that can affect the city. And I feel like that's why this game has been taking so long. But yeah, I do hope that by them delaying it from the December, didn't just make it so this game is buried under all the February releases. But yeah, well, every game, is starting to slowly get delayed to that 2022, and it just makes sense. They just need more time to polish up some of these games. This year is already pretty packed.
Yeah.
And it's a good time to be a gamer. Punks is like a golden age, and it definitely does feel like that lately. Yeah, I think it is a good thing, but also I'm hoping it doesn't also get buried.
Yeah. A lot of people in the chat are saying Elden Ring is January 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
it's not technically February, but you get that game and you're rolling right into February. Good luck trying to figure it out because that's straight up ridiculous. Well, listen again, folks, not the biggest topic. We have a couple of ones we're going to get into real quick. I got to do a little promotion. Last night's primetime gaming, folks, was straight up ridiculous. It was a 2.5-hour show. We had King David, we had Neo GameSpark, and the PTG crew that just completely knocked it out of the park. Pong, you were watching, right?
Yeah. I was at work, so I was in and out, but yeah, for sure, of course.
I mean, King was king, right?
Oh,
King
yeah.
always, he was himself. And Neo GameSpark, first time I got a chance to work with him. And what's crazy is both those guys are neighbors. Like they're down the block.
Yeah,
They're literally a 10-minute car ride from me. Eventually, we're all gonna sit down and break bread. But if you missed it last night, definitely go to Double Barrel Gaming and check it out. It was a lot of big topics. One of which was the Marvel conundrum. Why doesn't Marvel have? Why doesn't Xbox have its own Marvel character? A lot of people were for it. A lot of people were against it. Some people think they need it. Some people said otherwise. I'm still in the camp. I'm very bullish, like Pong is about. I'm not saying that we want a Me Too kind of situation with Sony. We want Sony to keep being Sony, and we want Xbox to keep being Xbox. But there comes a point, folks, when you're trying to attract the casual audience. You're not going to do that with Perfect Dark. You're not going to do that with Avowed. You're not going to do that with Fable. You're going to get us. You're going to get OGs, Xbox 360 fans. Yes. But you got to get something that the casuals go and watch on TV or go to watch a film in the theaters now that they're open. And that's Marvel. And there's no hotter property right now than the MCU. There is not one property in the world that's hotter than the MCU right now. Nothing. So again, if you missed it, go definitely check that out. But
I was just impressed you kept under 6 hours, Boom. That's all I was. You know
what?
It
was
a huge conversation. Yeah,
2.5 hours and 2 topics. We only had 2 topics, which is I think pretty good. But yeah, that could have gone completely out of control. Listen, we're gonna talk about something now. I get this is an Xbox show, right? And people are gonna be like, well, Boom, I don't understand. Why are we talking about Deathloop? Because Deathloop is getting perfect scores. Now, I'm going out to buy it for the PlayStation 5 because I don't want to wait a year. I have come to the realization based on what I've heard. I absolutely loved Dishonored 1. Not so much 2. Played it a couple hours and just couldn't get into it. But I played through Dishonored 1 twice. I loved it so much. And this is, of course, being very, compared to it in a lot of ways. I saw a lot of videos, but it was the talk of the town that took me back. I mean, listen, Arkane Studios, they're awesome, right? They have not released anything really bad, at least as far as I could remember. So seeing all of these scores, I mean, listen, take what you want with IGN. Like, they're not my news source. I like the smaller places like VGC and comicbook.com and Game Rant. Those are the sites that I pull news from. But they gave it a 10 out of 10. And when I saw it, I said, okay, now I got to start looking at other ones. And we saw Ainsley, from the Bitcast. He gave it a very high score. I think Windows gave it a 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5. I mean, it's getting unbelievable reviews. So I posed a question to the panel in the chat, and here's the thing: considering that PlayStation really didn't have anything big for first party. This is a big win for Sony because this is a game that's exclusive. It's a timed exclusive. Phil Spencer said it right out of the gate that they're going to honor the deals. I'm going to be honest with you. There are some people in circles that I run that said Microsoft should have been petty and pulled it and paid the balance of the licensing fee and made it exclusive for Xbox because that's what Sony would have done. So if roles reverse, right, and we know that Sony is petty as F, right, they would have been like, no, that's ours. We'll just pay the extra money for breaking the contract, but we own it now. It's not going to Xbox. Sorry. I honestly feel that way. But Microsoft, they are a different class of company, and they wanted to honor the deal. They did in fact do that. It is exclusive. It came out today, and again, it's getting incredible reviews. But on the back end of the conversation, how is this good for Xbox? You say, Boom, what are you talking about? How is this actually good for Xbox? Well, it's actually quite great for Xbox, simply because not only are we going to get it in Game Pass, and you don't have to buy it if you want to wait, which is something Zemi and I were talking about, where the money should be spent. But this is based on the reception. It's hard to imagine that this is not going to get a sequel, right? And that sequel will in turn now be for Xbox as an exclusive. And what does that do for Xbox? Well, if you are a PlayStation only owner and you're like, wow, I love my PlayStation, but damn, that Dishonored. That Deathloop was really good. And the second part is in Game Pass. That may move some people over. Not abandon Sony by any stretch of the truth. No one's going to start burning their PlayStation 5s in the driveway. But people may buy a Series S. People may play on their tablet. People may be able to play on their TV at some point. Zemi, where are your thoughts on this? Is this seems like a win-win for both PlayStation and my Xbox? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a win for both sides for sure. I mean, Sony gets the win because they paid to get exclusivity on a game, and Microsoft, of course, upheld that pre-existing deal, and so they have that game that that's exclusive for a year that helps kind of fill in the gap of Sony's first party kind of missing this holiday, right? So I mean, that's a huge win for Sony. But it's even kind of a bigger win for Xbox because at the end of the day, Microsoft owns Arkane Studio. They own Deathloop. They like you mentioned at the very beginning, Deathloop is reviewing really, really well. It's likely that there's going to be a sequel, and when there is a sequel, it very much is also likely that it's not going to be on PlayStation. It's going to be on PC and it's going to be on Xbox, but it's probably not going to be on PlayStation for sure. Right. And like you also said, I don't expect PlayStation people to be burning their consoles, but for those PlayStation consumers who really, really, really enjoy Deathloop, it just adds that extra topping to the ice cream of the Xbox sundae, right? If Elder Scrolls wasn't enough to tip them over the edge to get an Xbox or to start playing some more games on PC or whatever it may be, Deathloop might just be the tipping point for them. So it's just an extra block on top of the castle just to give even more reason why a PlayStation player might want to transition over to Xbox or might want to buy a PC to start playing some Xbox games. So it definitely, like what you said, I mean, the ideas that you're presenting 100% make sense. It's Deathloop is a pro for PlayStation. It's helping fill that gap in their first party lineup this holiday. But it's also, a win for Xbox because it can definitely help drive, conversions in the future, or just be that one extra reason why, so for sure, what you're saying absolutely makes sense. It's a big win for both companies.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. I think you're definitely onto something with that. Pong, let's get your opinion on this. Listen, look, when you talk about Bethesda proper, right, which Arkane Studios is a part of, we expect their games to be good. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't completely blown away with the original previews. I expected this to be good. I had no idea that it would be great. And again, I have not played it myself. I've watched some people, some videos on it. All the reviews are starting to come out left, right, and center, and everyone is dancing in the streets because this is now another new IP that Microsoft has under their belt. And getting back to it being on PlayStation, considering that they didn't have anything for the fall, and the delay of Horizon Forbidden West, this is big. You got next week. You have Kenya or Kena. I think it is. It's Kena. That looks. I'm highly anticipating that game. That game, it looks like a masterpiece. It looks like a Pixar artwork. Another timed exclusive, but an exclusive nonetheless for PlayStation. And like I said, and I absolutely agree with Zemi Games on the back end of this. These kind of scores, this kind of consumer buzz, this kind of talk within the industry almost secures a sequel. And now Microsoft has a new IP that's going to be an exclusive and one they could put on a front banner in Xbox Game Pass when that sequel eventually launches in a couple of years. This is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, Boom. Take Xbox, Sony out of the way, like you were talking about, Boom. I'd be the most hated man in the industry if I ran any of these companies because I would have done exactly what you said. I would have bought out this contract and said, F you.
Yes.
You know what? Come on over, take it. And this is why it still works out great for everybody at the end of the day. But business is business. And again, it you can call it petty, but it's good strategy. And I could see why it's going to work out well both ways, like you said, no matter what. At the end of the day, it's going to be great because, look, let's just think about this. Next year, we now have Redfall.
Yeah.
We now have a Game of the Year contender, potentially a Game of the Year winner when it's all said and done in Deathloop. We believe Motorsport is next year and Starfield. Yeah. All in the second half next year. And that's just what we know and we assume is going to be there, right? That is 4 heavy hitters coming to Game Pass.
And you know what's crazy? Let me add to that, brother.
Yeah.
What's interesting is now we're starting to see the one banger per quarter line up.
Yep. Exactly. Right? And we're going to get even more next year by the looks of things, right?
Yeah. But what's
2023 could even be more so, right?
Absolutely,
it just depends how they line all this up. But look, first of all, shout out to Arkane Leon, who did this. This is the studio, for people who don't know. Legitimately, it is public knowledge at this point. Bethesda has talked about it. Arkane Leon, because of the money trouble that ZeniMax was having prior to the acquisition, this was one of the studios that was on a chopping block. We may never have gotten Deathloop at the end of the day if it wasn't for the acquisition. Yes, they could have folded shop and they could have moved, Deathloop to, let's say Austin to finish up or whatever the case may be, or it might have just been scrapped. This is why acquisitions, as much as people talk about being awful and consolidation is not good for the industry, I feel the opposite. I feel that it is great for the industry. Not great for everybody, not every studio. Again, at the end of the day, we've had that discussion, that huge discussion that at the end of the day, it's not great for everybody or what everybody envisions for their studio. But when you see things like this reinforces the idea of why it can be so beneficial for a company like Microsoft, Xbox, to take over and acquire somebody else who may not have the stability that they need to finish a project like Deathloop. Because here we are today talking about a potential Game of the Year, perfect scores. I was listening a little bit. They had a Spaces this morning with Pete Hines and some of the guys from Deathloop this morning. And Pete Hines shouted out Arkane, saying this is the first game that they've received 10s from IGN and GameSpot, the same game. Receiving 10s.
Please touch on that for a second.
Yeah,
please.
It's huge.
It's huge. We have to sit. Look, let me just say this. As an old school cat, okay, I used to import a lot of stuff. I imported everything until everything started coming out almost around the same time. And one of the Japanese magazines that I used to import was Famitsu Wave.
Yep.
Right. They are the magazine. Like, that is the site, right? Do you know that in the history of that, I think they've only given 16 10s in since like the 80s. Do you know how big of a deal this is? This is the biggest W you could possibly ever imagine.
Yeah.
And again, I don't go to GameSpot. I don't go to IGN.
Right.
My reasons are my reasons, right?
Yeah.
I used to be one of those guys. Now I'm making my own content. I'm just not a fan. I'll just keep it at that. But they are big entities within the gaming space.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, what they say matters a hell of a lot more than what Boom says, right? Because they are this giant conglomerate company. When those two give a game that's now that's part of Xbox a 10, what this potentially does is line up. Again, this is just me thinking outside the box. What's this? This could be the start of something special for Xbox in a big way.
Well, yeah.
And we're talking that maybe these companies come around to reviewing Xbox stuff a little bit different now. Again, it's just an opinion, but please, Pong, take it away.
Yeah, no. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there. Boom. At the end of the day, for me, again, we always talk about meta who, and again, that reviews are just opinions, which they are. Absolutely. I
have never bought a game based on someone else's review.
Correct, but
I don't do that.
But we're not everyone, right? Boom. We're not everyone. There are people out there who legitimately wait to see what other people are saying about a game. At the end of the day, reviews still do matter a lot in the masses. We've seen the mind shift happen in real time with this game, right? We saw it happen with Psychonauts 2 just recently as well.
Yeah.
But we saw it especially happen on Deathloop. How many people were out here in this community? And again, vocal minority, but it does not matter. We're talking about this. How many people out here are talking about how generic Deathloop looks and how, it's just going to be another Game Pass fodder. We don't need this garbage. All of a sudden, as of today, those voices have all gone silent. And guess what? I can guarantee you a lot of them are now picking up Deathloop over on PS5 because they see it.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. You know what? And so it still does matter. Those Game of the Year awards, as much as I say I could care less, whatever. I play what I play. I like what I like. For a lot of people, it does matter. And for Microsoft, Xbox, who has been missing some of those staple franchises that have not gotten the critical success or critical hype, this is a huge moment because you're starting to see why they went out and purchased these studios. We are now going to get what we assume eventually will be a Psychonauts 3 exclusive to Game Pass. And now we're going to potentially, and looks like if all things are on equal footing, looks like we're going to get a Deathloop sequel down the line that would also be exclusive. Now you've locked in two potential Game of the Year winners for the rest of however long Xbox is around for. Those studios are going to be making these types of games for you. And again, this is why you make these acquisitions at the end of the day. People can downplay them all they want. People can call BS all they want and shout from the rooftops, hey, they're crap games anyways. We didn't need them anyways. Guess what? When these start hitting, that's when everything changes. And like you were just talking about with Deathloop potential sequel at the beginning of this, when that hits, all the people who do go out and buy Deathloop and enjoy the hell out of it right now, which it seems like there's going to be a lot of people doing that.
Yep.
They're going to be looking over at Xbox, knowing full well when that exclusive gets announced or when that first teaser hits, man, if I haven't invested in that ecosystem yet, I might have to go over there because I want to play Deathloop too. Yeah. That is a huge, huge W for Microsoft. It just adds to the quality of that lineup. They're climbing that mountain that they created for themselves in a lot of ways from the past mistakes, from the past positions that they were in. They are now in that position where they're getting to that top of that mountain, where they now have these studios that you know when a game is announced, you're going to get quality. And we're going to talk about Redfall later and kind of the fallout of what happened there. But at the end of the day, all in the back of those people's minds, especially now that Arkane is all over the place with these 10s, and it's two different studios, it's Austin versus Leon, but it doesn't matter. Arkane itself is known for these high quality games. At the end of the day, they know if they're spewing that BS about Redfall off of pre-alpha or alpha build stuff, they know in the back of their minds that that's not true. That the chances are great that Arkane is going to produce a high quality, highly rated, highly successful game, and it's exclusive to Xbox. And that's when those mind shifts start changing. This is huge. Again, congratulations to Arkane Leon. I'm so happy for the studio that almost had to shutter its doors to now put out a Game of the Year quality type game in Deathloop, to be getting the critical praise. And again, Arkane has always gotten critical praise. I hope this time it does turn into commercial success over on the PS5 side. I hope that more people do give this one a chance. I know Arkane's not, their games aren't for everybody, like you were talking about, Boom. Some hit with you, some don't hit with you. But at the end of the day, this game seems to be something very, very special. And I know a lot of us were even saying we saw too much of it. I think what they showed us and all the trailers and all the gameplay that we saw, I don't think they did themselves enough credit with this game. From now watching what I watched Mav for a little bit last night play it, but just hearing what everybody's talking about, this game is a whole lot bigger than even I thought it was. Like, I've been hyped for this game because I'm an Arkane fan, but I think they didn't give themselves enough credit with the gameplay, because there's whole exploration. There's all this stealth to it. There's all these different weapons that you get. We didn't see a whole lot of that in what they were showing. And people were like, man, I'm just so sick and tired of seeing Deathloop. Look, they saved a lot. They saved a lot, and it's kind of a surprise. And I think that's where these reviews are coming from, because people were expecting one thing, and all of a sudden they found out that this is a whole lot more than they assumed the game was from what we were seeing. So again, shout out to them. Big win for everybody involved. Congratulations. Again, I would never. I would have been hated. I would have nixed this contract and held it for Xbox. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that the PS5 people are getting to enjoy it now. I'm looking forward to it from a year from now. Again, next year's second half already of 2022 is looking fabulous. And this one, I will definitely be all over day one, because I don't have a PS5 yet. I'm not planning on getting one until late next year. So I will just wait for this to come to Xbox Game Pass, but it will be one more awesome, amazing thing to play when it does finally hit.
Yeah, 100%. And we're gonna talk about Redfall momentarily. But first, 3-bit. Listen, again, from a gamer's perspective, I want your opinion. But from a developer's perspective, I'd like you to talk about what a 10 means to a team. Like, if you're on said team and you're working on this game that is a new IP. New IPs are the hardest thing to win over the crowd. Right? Because we love going back to Halo. We love going back to Gears. We love going back to a new Forza. If you multi-console player like me, you love a new God of War. You definitely can't wait to get your hands on Horizon, right? So we love our established IPs. But when a new IP from a developer that has had tremendous success before in this type of genre releases it, people are, there were a lot of lukewarm people. Listen, I'm not going to front. So I was also. The first couple of previews, I was like, yeah, it seems like Dishonored to me. But from what I've been seeing, it is and it's not. What does, from both perspectives, gamer and developer, what does a 10 and have extremely high praise mean for that team?
Well, I guess I could give an example. I know there's some Sony teams that rely kind of on high reviews in order for different pay rates that developers would get. So they really love those reviews. Like, if they get 9s or 10s, that means they potentially get a bonus, right? So in the developer sort of aspect, that can mean a lot to some people. That's your paycheck, right? But in the gamer sort of view, just seeing 10s, it can differ. And I've seen you guys sort of talk about like how Metacritic, to me, it doesn't matter, but to some people, I do have friends who literally will buy a game if it has good scores, or if IGN gives it high praise, or GameSpot or something like that. Us personally as a panel, we go on different shows. We are very in the mix of different game news. Like usually we're some of the first people to get in on some of that stuff, right? But so a lot of casual audience, reviews can matter, but I can also see how people are going to buy it if they're interested. There are people who still buy Madden, and Madden's is finally getting like 5s and stuff like that, right? So one of the most sold games out there.
And yet it was on top of the MPD once again, 3-bit.
Yep.
Crazy.
So annoying. I think Boom, were you talking?
Yeah, Bong, what's on top of the MPDs again?
Madden.
Oh,
Madden. Madden
Shocking.
all the time, and
Yeah.
those don't necessarily review very well. So if
I
people are
haven't bought a
interested,
Madden in about 7 years.
it's just good. Me either. It's been a while since I bought that. I played about 4 hours of Deathloop, and it's really solid so far. I love games where I can stealth kill, and the level design is open enough where it promotes you experimenting a bit rather than just blowing through the levels in a game where it's just very action based, like a Call of Duty or something like that. And I think Arkane's DNA is engulfed within this game. If you played previous Arkane games and loved it, you'll like this one even more. Arkane games tend to give you sort of this grandeur illusion of freedom within their open-ended levels, and basically rewarding you for experimentation. And Deathloop definitely has that, and also like the feel of the weapons is pretty cool. The way they use the dual sense for the vibrations, making you feel like you're walking, and the trigger slightly gets harder when to pull when you are aiming the nail gun, which is pretty impressive. And like a lot of other people, I wasn't sure about this game. It was marketed to me so much, and I still didn't get what the game was. I think that's what the problem was. I've seen it so many different times, at different showcases, and I still was like, what is this game? I don't really get. Like, is he dying? Is it, what do you mean by time loop and all that different stuff? Didn't really get it. But actually playing it, it's just wow. I think I get why it's so hard for them to kind of explain without spoiling stuff in the story. I think the story and the voice acting is top tier. The main character is super likable. I get like We Happy Few vibes with the enemies mixed in with like Deus Ex and the different ways you can enter in areas. And I think a lot of people tend to downplay the success of Bethesda sometimes because of one game, because of Fallout 76, for the most part. And they're like, oh, the rest of the studios are trash. And that, to me, I'm just like, guys, Arkane, like, you can like their games or not, but they pull out quality games most of the time, right? And I'm super proud of the team for sticking in with that, because I'm sure they've seen the reactions of these trailers as well, right? But they're still working on the game. Like, just wait till this game comes out. I'm gonna prove a lot of people wrong. But yeah, I think a lot of what we're talking about seems to be like the future, right? With Deathloop and what this means for Xbox. And I do think it is a positive and a negative. It's a negative for Sony for the most part, because this is what you guys get, right? But it's also a positive because, hey, they also get to play this game and get to experience it first. And but it's good on the Microsoft side, because this is kind of like a preview of the future of Xbox in a way. There's a lot of amazing games coming out next year and the year after. On the Xbox side of things, is they just keep growing with all these different studios they have. And I think people tend to underestimate how big ZeniMax is, how many studios are within ZeniMax, the games we don't know about, the Indiana Joneses, the Elder Scrolls, and all the other teams over there. But this is I would say Deathloop is a good preview to the future of Xbox and what they have in store. But I think the game is fantastic. I think a lot of people need to try it. If you liked Dishonored, in games like that. And awesome. If you didn't, Mav, he did not like Dishonored, but he loves this game. So I think it offers something else for those people who may have not liked the gameplay of Dishonored. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think about it. I think it is a cool look into the future. I would have been petty like Pong if I was the head
I agree.
of Xbox. I'd be like, no,
100%.
you can't have it, because Sony would have definitely did it. They would have definitely done that. But they're honoring all their contracts. They're like, hey, this is what we're doing, and in a way that can be a positive for the audience on PlayStation. Like there's some people who are on PlayStation that may not want to go to the Xbox side of things, and they play this game, and this may be the game that makes them go on the other side. And that's where the Series S is really good, right? Where it's cheap. A lot of people, it's a good entryway into the ecosystem for sure. Yeah, it's good game. Everybody try it out.
I'm looking forward to picking it up this afternoon. Real quick, I had thrown up on the screen. It was actually by accident, but it's a great quote. Leonard Herrera says, "Deathloop is a delicious carrot that allows PlayStation gamers a taste of the new generation of Xbox." I think that is a fantastic quote, and I think you're onto something with that. But listen, as we roll into almost half the show, I want to get to, being that we're talking about Arkane, I think it would be almost unwise to not talk about what we've been advertising as the main course for the show, and that's the Arkane, other Arkane Studios' next new IP, Redfall, and it got leaked. A lot of pre-build stuff that they're working on was leaked, and you know what, folks? Here's the thing. I think that the Austin team is going to be just as popular as the team that brought us Deathloop, and Microsoft is going to have another huge new IP and hit on their hand. Obviously, this particular game in Redfall is an upcoming Xbox and PC exclusive. And listen, the anonymous leaker, his name is Imgur. He posted a whole bunch of screenshots. Now, all of those screenshots have been taken down, but it's the internet, right? So we know that once things go up, it's hard to get these things down. But the post title indicated that the images are from a Redfall playtest, and that the images themselves prominently feature several of Redfall's weapons, environments, and menus. Additionally, though, several developer testing and debug tools and areas can also be spotted in the screenshots. Now, based on the images, it looks like Redfall will feature different tiers of weapons, skills, and a ton of different missions for players to complete. There are some people saying that this is kind of like Borderlands-esque, because it's going to be a bit of a looter shooter. I got to be honest with you. Listen, all I can say is that I'm going to be amped because you're going to be hunting vampires. Now, I know that the CG trailer, for some people it was exciting. I thought it was great. It kind of really told the tale for me. And I know some people don't like these. They don't like they want to see gameplay. I'm okay with CG trailers, because we saw two of them that the internet is still talking about, and that's Spider-Man and Wolverine, and I was perfectly fine with that. So for me, this was the trailer that came out during E3 for Redfall was perfectly fine. When you start talking about this game, now this game is supposed to be, I believe it's summer. I think it's summer of 22, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're correct.
This is another new IP. This falls into the line that we just said upon momentarily about how Microsoft is quietly positioning themselves to have one quote unquote banger per quarter. This is apparently going to be one of those bangers, just based on what we've seen, what we've heard. You got did you get a chance to see the leaked photos, Pong?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. I was tagged in them, so I got them right when they first dropped. So I looked at all the photos, read up on all information, and look, Redfall was already, again, I'm an Arkane fan, so I trust what they're going to do. So Redfall was already on my list, right? It was already something that I was going to be hyped for. Again, I get excited by trailers. I don't care if they're CGI. I don't care if they're in-game. I don't mind those types of trailers. I can still get excited about the ideas behind it. And what I saw there was awesome characters, great enemy design, got the feel for the game. You could see that they're going after special abilities along with weapons, all that kind of stuff I could pull out of it. Now, the thing that we didn't know was what style of game it was going to be, right? A lot of people got the Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood kind of vibes, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people thought maybe it was going to be a co-op multiplayer kind of in that line where you kind of are a more linear kind of experience, through levels, hunting vampires, that kind of stuff. And I could see why people got that impression, but to hear now the information. First, let's talk about the screenshots. Again, alpha, pre-alpha build. We don't know what they were testing at the time. Again, if they were testing multiplayer aspects of the game, if they were just testing the online functionality. Sometimes they're going to send out earlier builds with less graphics, resolution, and of course, 3-Bit can speak on this a little bit more too, since he does this for a living. But they're going to do that because they're not worried about having all the assets load in. And of course, nowadays it's not going to be on-site testing. This is going to be off-site testing. So you're going to be streaming, and obviously the more assets you have, the less performance you're going to get. That's not what you're worried about when you're testing certain things. So we don't know where this was, but what I did get from those screenshots, and there was a couple of very beautiful screenshots, in fact, some of them that obviously there wasn't textures, there was a lot of stuff missing, but you could get the impression that they already, which is great to know, because again, summer, I'm expecting late summer. I'm expecting like an August kind of release if they hit that mark. It's good to know from the screenshots. It feels like they have the aesthetic of the game down pat. They have the exact look that they want for the game, because you could see the screen in the screenshots. They all had that similar. There was nothing out of place. Let's put it that way. When you looked at the screenshots, everything looked like it all fit together. And I love to see that. And the menu screenshot for me was the big one. That's when I first, before all the other information kind of came out, when I looked at the screenshot, I looked, oh, they've got rarity on their weapons. Aha. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden all the other information kind of came out. So looter shooter for me, that's a winning. You can just say looter shooter and I'm going to try it. Okay. Yes. Period. Point 100%. Blank. That's the way I am. You add Borderlands to it. Now, again, Borderlands 3 didn't hit for me, but Borderlands 2 is on my greatest all-time games list. Okay. So as a Borderlands fan, you say Borderlands looter shooter style game. Yes. You say please. Seamless open world like Breath of the Wild. Very, very awesome, right there.
Vampires
right?
to the mist.
You add vampires to it.
It's going to be a tasty meal.
Yes, it is. And all this stuff is subject to change. We don't know, right? But you can play solo. You can play co-op according to the leaks, which we already kind of figured and assumed, obviously. But if you're going to have drop-in, drop-out co-op on an open world, seamless open world, they said the map is similar in size to Fallout 76 or Ghost of Tsushima. That's a pretty dang big world, okay, to go travel through. There's going to be lots and lots of things to do, lots and lots of missions, lots of NPCs. They talked about those as well to interact with. So this is going to be something special. Then the supposed leaks also confirmed 6 playable characters to choose from. Wow, I was expecting 4.
Well, when you say saw 6, 4, right?
Right, exactly. 4. Exactly. So when you say 6, now you're giving even greater flexibility. I love that in building your team and the different, obviously, because they already said that the hero abilities are those are going to be important, obviously, when you build your team together. So again, there's a lot that we can get from this. My hype level went through the roof. There's a lot to nail too, because again, when you get into looter shooters, we've seen looter shooters fail, like Outriders most recently. If you don't do them right, it could be a big problem. If you don't have the balancing down, if you don't have the equipment, the skills, the skill trees built properly, if you don't have everything on point, people are going to find out real quick, and it can be the demise of a game if you don't fix what's going on. Now, again, being that it's Arkane, I have the utmost confidence that they know exactly what they're doing, and that they're going to have these issues. There's not going to be issues when it launches besides the usual minimal issues. I think that this game is going to come out polished, but if they nail all those core parts of a looter shooter and you've got yourself this game where you can build a team, a squad of friends, to complement each other, and you're hunting down these big, powerful, they talked about the bosses as well, in the mode of Borderlands bosses, that's going to be a special experience, and I think it's going to be a unique setting with the vampires for a looter shooter, which is cool. And so I'm hyped. I can't wait to hear more. I can't wait till we see official stuff come out about this game, some official gameplay. Again, leaks are what they are. I'm sure the studio hated that it happened, because obviously some of those screenshots are not screenshots. Like if this was like, I've heard some people think that maybe this was a controlled leak. Some of those screenshots you wouldn't leak if this was a controlled leak, right? I
absolutely agree.
They weren't the most flattering of screenshots at all. So, but at the end of the day, I can't wait to see more about this game. And and again, next gen only, not cross gen, next gen only. This is only for series consoles. Can't wait to see how they take advantage of that as well.
And so you made mention of something that was pretty important. This is coming from the same studio, not the same studio. Let me rephrase that.
Yep.
The same team, because when you talk about a one big entity, when you talk about Arkane, there are several teams within that entity. We're now seeing what Deathloop is doing in the reviews. People are excited. People are going to go out to buy it. I'm going to be one of those people going to buy it right after the show. I'm going to try and get some gaming in late tonight and get some video recorded so I could play it. Looking forward to my time with it. And again, if it's really that good, then I'll probably come back to it when it releases on Xbox next year. But when you talk about a new IP in Redfall, seeing what the other team did, you could imagine that the same quality and talent that they have on one team, they're going to have on the other. And this is a game. It appears to be, based on what we know, one of those service-esque games. So this game is going to live on past its original release. You're saying 6 characters. They could add other characters. Hell, they could even add guest characters.
What if the robot is a character? You know
what I'm saying. So I mean, when you're talking about the grand scope of this game, this is going to be massive. And what's even more interesting is that we don't know how long they've been working on this, but from what we've heard, it's been a while. That's why it's releasing next summer. This isn't a passion project they threw together with a stick of bubble gum and a bunch of developers. This is something that they want to succeed. And you know something? You said it. Arkane is a studio that does get the nod because it's a quality studio, and they rarely release a bad product.
Right. And you got to remember too, Boom, just to add to what you're saying too, a lot of people think, well, here we go, looter shooter, games as a service. This must be a Microsoft deal. This is Xbox. This is what we're going to get. No, this is Arkane wanted to do this game. This was already in pre-production during the acquisition. This is going to be one of the games that Phil and his team got to see when they went and they were talking to ZeniMax about the purchase. Hey, what do you guys got coming down the line? This would have been one of those games. Hey, Arkane's working on his brand new projects, brand new IP. They're going different. It's going to be a looter shooter style. So this is not going to be anything influenced by Xbox at all. And we already know that Xbox is hands off with all their studios. This is something that Arkane wanted to do, wasn't asked to do. So this is definitely going to be something that they are going to want to put their stamp of quality on, that they are known for. So just because it's kind of different genre than we're used to seeing from that studio doesn't mean that we're going to see less quality, or this is just a throw together passion project. Like you just said, Boom, this is something they wanted to do. So huge.
Yeah, 100%. Zemi, let's get you in on the conversation. Again, you're not a big fan of single player horror games, but this is a game that you could probably play with your 3 buddies. I could be one of those buddies. And I know I'm going to have to go through the doors first. I know that. That's the standard fare with Zemi. He just hangs out in the back and lets you get killed. But Zemi, I mean, hearing that we're going to be getting another new IP that's going to be churned out by another studio in Austin is exciting. Again, they are working. Again, today we're getting Deathloop, and next year we're going to be getting both Deathloop and Redfall on the Xbox in Xbox Game Pass day and date. This has the potential to be really big for Microsoft. What are your thoughts on it, man?
I'm just happy to hear that you want to be my zombie killing buddy. We just run around everywhere with crucifixes. You still kill vampires with crucifixes, right?
Well, this one is
steaks and crucifixes.
Okay.
Don't know about garlic yet. Hopefully, we'll have some garlic in it.
Holy water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy water. Okay. What about a sun gun? Do they make those?
Ooh,
that'd
that'd be pretty
but
cool.
You never know. You never know.
No, so I saw a little peek at the screenshots. I didn't sit there and put on my glasses and like really get close to the screen and look at everything, but it definitely looks very looter shooter-y.
Yes.
Which there have been looter shooters that came out and I've really, really enjoyed. A lot of them though just kind of bore me. But whenever I saw, Redfall, I kind of also looked at it thinking that it's going to be co-op. And so I started getting really, really excited because typically a game like Redfall, I'm not going to play the single player of because I'm a coward. Everyone knows this. But co-op, I do. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, I am looking forward to the game, that it's coming out, in the summer of next year, I think is an excellent, time, because, during the holiday seasons, things get hectic. That's a big reason why I'm not going out and getting Deathloop right now. So overall, I am really, really excited for it. I also think that, it being a, looter kind of game, I think that there's going to probably also be some games as a service kind of vibes with it, unless, Arkane removed, that out of there. And the only reason why I say that is because, Arkane definitely was working on this before they were being acquired. And Bethesda was definitely going down the path of games as a service because they were having a lot of issues financially. So I definitely think that Redfall is kind of, a callback from that. Like, of course, they were building the game for Bethesda. They didn't know that Microsoft was, going to acquire them. But I think that also kind of, the whole games as a service, looter shooter kind of really plays into Game Pass, right? Because, it's going to make people want to keep paying that monthly membership to keep that service, to be able to continue playing this game. So I don't think that, a game as a service or a looter shooter is even a bad thing for Game Pass. I think it definitely works in their advantage. And, just thinking about it, I can't really say, or, to come into my mind, I don't think that there's any other actual looter shooter that Xbox makes like first party, unless I'm just heavily mistaken, right? So, that kind of fills in that gap as well. Overall, really excited about Redfall. Now I'm super excited because Boom's going to be my vampire slaying buddy. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I liked seeing the little leaks. Of course, I don't think it's a great representation of what the game 100% is going to look like.
Right.
On a lot of those screenshots, it kind of looked like the graphical settings were turned way down. They weren't expecting these images, coming out to the public. If they, like Pong said, if they expected that, they would have turned those graphics, up to the max, right? But no, I am really excited for it.
Yeah. And that makes two of us. Real quick, 3-bit. Let's get your opinion on this. Obviously, no studio likes leaks. And I think they're still trying to figure out what exactly happened. How did this happen? I know I've heard the rumor, like Pong was saying, the controlled leak. I absolutely disagree. I think that this was something that the team did not expect to happen. It's done. It's out there. We've seen it. We've gotten some more information. We know this is going to be a looter shooter. And what happened unfortunately cannot be undone. So what does the team do? They move forward. And, listen, again, we're going to have to keep going back to Deathloop. We saw how that game has turned out. It's a masterpiece in many people's opinions. I can't say that because I haven't played it. I will be playing it this afternoon. But coming off of a monster hit like that, I have full faith that the team in Austin is going to deliver a big time title, and it could see the exact same praise, except this time it's going to be on Xbox as an exclusive, and that's a big deal. And a new IP. New IP, again, we talk about it all the time. New IPs are hard to sell. They are hard to sell to people, and again, based on how big this game is apparently going to be, I think we might have something special. What are your thoughts on the leak, but more so the confidence that we should have that this is when it does release, it's going to be something special?
Well, for me, the leak made me want to play the game more, which is very positive. Like what Pong was saying, it seems like a looter shooter type game, and I kind of really like those games, especially if there's very co-op heavy modes in it. And this seems to have like the different gun types that we saw in the trailer, right?
Yes.
We have like different abilities, and the characters are very much like embracing those abilities, which is amazing. In terms of the leaks, that it was as a team that really sucks, as a dev team, to see that. And as soon as those leaks came out, you already know there was comparisons. I seen a comparison from Redfall to God of War, and I'm like, you guys, like pre-alpha. I encourage people to look at pre-alphas for games and see how much they change from pre-alpha to the finale. Because with pre-alpha, you are not really concerned with the level of details, or you call it LODs. You're not really concerned about how textured this rock looks or any of that. You're primarily with. There's a lot of different production pipelines for different studios, for sure. Some decide to work on graphics very early on. And most studios I see, though, is about the feeling of the game, how the game feels, how does it interact with the world, with the physics of it, how do the guns feel is essentially what you're worried about typically in pre-alphas. And this is a pre-alpha, and I think it's been in development since 2017.
It's been a while, yeah.
I'm really like Arkane is a really talented studio, and I'm interested because this, if I'm not mistaken, this is like one of their first sort of online based games, right? They mostly do like
single player experiences, yeah.
So I am interested in this team sort of experimenting and doing an online game. I really think a lot of their games could be online, and this is kind of like their outing. I know Deathloop sort of has an online feature for those who have been looking into that game. People can jump into your game and sort of mess with you. And I'm actually trying to mess with Mav while he plays at some point. But yeah, to me, like leaks can be unfortunate, but it also to me, it really did interest me more in the game and what it has to offer. I think it's like it has a first person and a third person, unless they were just messing with the camera.
Yeah, that's interesting because they say, I mean, according to the leak, that it may support both views, which is pretty interesting. I would much rather, for me, be third person, but I would. I mean, if it's like Borderlands, then it probably does the game justice, especially in the looter shooter aspect, to make it first person.
Yeah, I think either way it would be kind of cool. First or third person, if you're able to switch sort of like a Skyrim style, awesome. Give people options. That's amazing. And the setting is what's doing it for me. Like vampires, love it.
Yep.
Right. And being able to work with your teammates, and just the idea of Redfall to me is like really cool. But I really think that people need to just, this is pre-alpha. If those images didn't impress you at all, look at the pre-alpha images for Dishonored. Wow. Not good looking. Same with Horizon Zero Dawn. She had like brick hair and she looked like a Roblox character, right? So
somebody actually pulled out the God of War 2 alpha stuff, which was ridiculous. It was awful.
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
It's not about the graphics. I think
Right.
people really need to get. It's not.
Right.
It's not about how good it looks. It's about how it feels. Very early on, and if you could do that, like sometimes you have art asset teams like working on amazing buildings and rocks and cars and all that on the side, while you have like the gameplay team. They'll just have gray box and build the level just from a gray boxing stage. And if it's fun to play, then they'll build the assets on top of it. So you never really know in terms of like the production pipeline,
especially if they were testing, right? If this did come from a test, which a lot of people have said it came from a test, right? They could be testing certain aspects and not worried at all, right? 3-bit, that's how it works.
Yeah. And I think in some of those images we saw like some of the it was like a gray stage in one of the images, and it had like the texture files on the on the actual blocks. So you know, it is what it is, and I'm really excited to play, especially after Deathloop. I think Deathloop is another portfolio hit piece just to prove how talented this studio is. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this and many other games in the future from them.
Yeah, and again, big point of conversation. It's a new IP, and it's exclusive to Xbox, and that's something that drives us, conversions into people that want to join your platform. That's what Microsoft wants to do. And a looter shooter with vampires, that in itself in one sentence says, you know what, sign me up, please, I'll take it, because it's going to have it's going to have a story, it's going to have an open world aspect, it's going to be lots of guns, and we only seen a couple of the vampire types. There could be other creatures a part of this. We say vampires, but what other types of vampires is going to have? I would imagine there's going to be quite a few of them, and I'm looking forward to it. Real quick, I got to thank a couple of people. First, Raiden Blade drops an outstanding £2 super chat and says, when you go fishing, you need bait. Deathloop is bait. That's a great point. The RNF drops an additional $2 super chat and says, now we wait for the Ghostwire scores. Looks great. Ghostwire Tokyo looks good. We'll talk more about that as that gets closer. The game looks a little weird, I'm not going to lie. But I'd be willing to try it. And that, of course, is going to come out first for PlayStation, and that will be the last of the exclusive deals. Yes, sir.
Real quick on Ghostwire Tokyo, since you're a Dreamcast guy, Zemi, I don't know how much Dreamcast you played, and 3-bit, I don't know what but does that Ghostwire Tokyo does that not remind you of Mach-E X, if you remember that game? It
absolutely does. Yes.
Yeah.
It has a lot of elements. Sure.
Yeah, the first person, that's like the first thing I think of when I first started seeing it was Mach-E X, and that takes a lot of people a long ways back, and Mach-E X was by no means a hit, but I played it a lot on Dreamcast, and that's the first thing it reminded me of. So,
yeah, no, I mean it does. I mean, do we know that if any of that team is a part of we don't know. I mean, So it would be interesting to have that come out later on. That maybe some of the team that worked on that game are now working on Ghostwire. Then you say, oh, I can see how the comparisons for sure. Raiden Blade drops an additional £2 super chat and says, hey, what if MGS remake was an Xbox exclusive? Look, I mean, you know what? I think I'm gonna call an audible here, because there's something I've been having on my mind. I was gonna save it for the next show, but I figured, you know what? We're this is a good time to talk about it. You mentioned he just so happened to mention exclusive. If it's exclusive, which let me just say this, man. Look, after what happened with KOTOR, if Microsoft gets anything exclusive like a Metal Gear Solid, I'd fall over in my chair. I just don't think that's who they are, and I'm sad for that. Again, we're going to talk about a certain exclusive that is, we don't know if it is, but it should be in a second. I'm still taken aback by the fact that Knights of the Old Republic, that has been synonymous with Xbox since its inception, is going to see potentially a 2-year exclusivity deal, which I think is almost sickening. Like I don't understand how that allows to happen. See, this is the kind of stuff with Xbox, as great as they do, and they do so many great things. This is annoying as a fan. Now I'm going to get it for the PlayStation 5 because I'm not waiting, but there are a lot of people that may not be able to A, afford a PlayStation, or B, find one. Folks, consoles are still hard to find.
And next year it looks like that may be the case as well. So we don't know. But getting to the exclusive conversation that we're about to have, and that will be the last topic of the show. I want to talk about Indiana Jones for a second, because right now we know that Machine Games is hard at work on the new IP, another new IP. It is. I put something in the DM a couple of days ago. They showed some concept artwork, and it looks like it's going to be a big open world Tomb Raider-esque type of deal with some mysticism added to the conversation, which I think is what you would find in an Indiana Jones film. Hopefully, there's no aliens though, because that movie was not good. But here's my I'm going to go to the chat and I'm going to ask the chat the question. I know what the answer is going to be, but I want to get the panel's opinion on this. And Zemi, I'll come to you last, because I kind of have a feeling what your opinion is going to be, but I want to go to Pong Soul on this. Indiana Jones is a Lucas IP, and somehow or another, a deal was struck before the purchase of Microsoft with Bethesda. This was going to be a big game for Machine Games. It's an original IP. It's expected to be like a Tomb Raider-esque game. But the question that no one can answer, and no one at Microsoft or Bethesda is talking about, is whether or not this is going to be an exclusive game or it's going to be a multi-plat. And I'm going to say this right now. I know people from Microsoft listen to this, and I know my opinion is just, it's so small in the totem pole that no one gives a shit. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you this right now. From a perspective point of view, if this game releases and it's multi-plat, you just got kicked in the teeth. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be embarrassing. Because if you have to pay to lock this behind your box like Sony does, then you go and do that. And as a fan, I don't think I'm going to take no for an answer. Pong, are you bullish like me on this point?
Yeah, I'm bullish like you. I wouldn't look. Microsoft, Xbox, Phil, everybody over there has said all the right things. Okay, so they've left the door open for certain multi-plats at the end of the day because they're going to honor these contracts. So I don't know if at this point I can call it an embarrassment, because obviously if the contract had been signed previous, they're going to do exactly what they did with Deathloop. Okay, if they're not going to pay to cancel the contract in Deathloop, I don't think they're going to do it to Indiana Jones. But if there's an opportunity, or if the contract was not as lock, it didn't have specific language in there stating that it has to appear on multi-platform, then I think you do lock it down. Obviously, again, it's a part of the business. Look, I've said it from the get-go. I don't talk about exclusives. When I talk about exclusives, in a perfect world, I could buy one console and play every single game on. Okay, period. That'd be great. Okay, but this is business. So when I come at it from a business standpoint and looking at competition and across everybody, Nintendo locks all their stuff down. Nobody ever questions it. We're never going to see a Nintendo game anywhere else because that's how Nintendo does their business. Sony, we see them. Again, they're starting to now put their first party stuff after years onto PC. I think that's going to accelerate. But at the end of the day, unless their hand is forced by like an outside entity like the MLB to put a first party game onto a competing platform such as Xbox, it's not going to happen, right? And we know they're going to money hat deal after deal after deal for timed exclusivity. That's what they do. So this is business. So I think that if there is an opportunity, if there is a loophole, if there is an out for Xbox to keep Indiana Jones as an exclusive, you keep it as an exclusive. Everybody now is used to this. I know a lot of people bring up the Tomb Raider situation. Xbox is in a completely different situation at this point. The industry as a whole has changed dramatically since the 360 days. Xbox now, with all the moves they've been making, with all the acquisitions, with more and more games being locked down by Sony on the other side, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was supposedly a time exclusive, but we've heard nothing about it coming to Xbox. I think now at this point in 2021, 2022, whenever they next show us Indiana Jones, I think the Tomb Raider thing happened because it was so early in Xbox's foray into the actual industry. I think now they do it, and I don't think that they get the same. Yes, will there be people that outcry? Of course there will. There will always be those people that do. But at the end of the day, I don't think they'll get the media outcry that they got back then. I don't think it'll be one of those situations where they corner the Square Enix people and force them to say it's going to come to PlayStation eventually. I don't think that happens. I think now there's a greater understanding of what this means as far as competition goes and as far as how business is done. So if I'm Phil, absolutely, I'll lock it down. If there's any opportunity, again, if the contract is in place and it says it's going to be multi-plat, I think that they're going to honor that, just like they did with Deathloop, just like they're doing with Ghostwire Tokyo. And I think it is what it is. I'm just happy in Indiana Jones, a game is being made. As a huge indie fan, man, I love to see it. And the artwork that you posted, Boom, is absolutely gorgeous and everything I expected to see from an Indiana Jones game. That's what I want to see. Again, we know nothing about this game. We don't know what perspective it's going to be in. It'd be weird to be a first-person game, but we don't know. They might try it. But at the end of the day, to see some artwork showing kind of what they're expecting, that is Indiana Jones right there. I hope it is all exploring. I hope it takes Tomb Raider to the next level. That's what I've always wanted, was like flat out exploring, not as much action, but puzzle solving, exploring, finding treasures across the globe. That's what I want to see. And that's the impression that artwork gave to me. So, but yeah, I mean, it's an important IP. People can downplay it. Indie has not been, indie for a long, long time. We know that. It's not like we're getting Indiana Jones at its prime, at its peak, when it was the most popular thing in the world. But look, the name itself, everybody still knows it. Even the younger generations know who Indiana Jones is. It's influenced so much across all different kind of industries. Whether it be movies, whether it be video games, whatever the case may be, it's influenced a ton. We wouldn't have Tomb Raider if we didn't have Indiana Jones. So therefore, I think that you do still lock it down if you have the chance, because it's still, when it gets closer to launch, as they show more and more stuff, and again, we know the quality that Machine Games puts out.
Yep.
The hype will start to really build, even for the people who try to downplay it now. The hype will start to build, and it will be one of those selling points to get more people into Game Pass, into the ecosystem, if you have it locked there. So yeah, I think it'd be a great business move.
Yeah, look, it's very early in development.
Yeah.
We don't know how long before the purchase that this license was headed over there. I would imagine that with anything, and let's not forget that Microsoft has a working relationship with Disney and Lucasfilms, right? They're not at each other's throats, So to lock it down would be the cost of renegotiating the contract, and I don't see that being a big deal, to be honest with you. I know there's some people in the chat here that don't care whether it's multi-plat, because they're going to play it on Xbox. I hear you, but I think from a talking point, from a perspective point, and I've said this before. As great as Game Pass is, and it's an underlier in any conversation you have. It is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Sony does not have it. They're probably never going to have it. Nintendo, good luck with that, Charlie Brown. That's never going to happen. This is going to be an Xbox thing. Right, this is going to be the way that they do their business. I know there's some people on one side of the camp that are like, well, if a game comes out on both platforms, they could play it. The draw is I could play it on Game Pass for free, right, quote unquote free. I don't think that's enough, personally. I think exclusives matter. Sony has proven it time and time again. Exclusives do a lot of things besides sell boxes, right? It's also goodwill. It's also talking points. It's also getting people to come and play on your platform because they can't play said experience on another. That's how you drive sales towards what is most important for Xbox moving forward, and that is the Xbox Game Pass subscription. It's not the sale of the box, because you could play it anywhere. Let's get 3-bit in the conversation, and then we'll back end it with Zemi Games. Where do you feel on the exclusivity situation with Indiana Jones? Is it a necessity for Xbox to lock it down?
I think so. I know a lot of people, when the Indiana Jones thing was announced, they that a lot of people were saying Disney wouldn't lock down such a huge IP as Indiana Jones to Xbox. They would want it
Well,
on
they just
multiple
did that with
platforms.
Wolverine, so yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
there's
They
the
did it
new
with
point.
Wolverine.
Yes,
They did it. They're starting to do it with KOTOR, right? I think it is early enough in development that there probably wasn't any contract that has exclusivity deals. I don't really know though. It's all speculation or in speculation town a little bit, but I do think exclusives are important for Xbox. I know there's been this whole messaging with Xbox for the casual audience where they look at Xbox as lesser than PlayStation because of the lack of its exclusives, especially in the last generation. But not so you're saying like talking points, but it's also a thing where it does drive sales to the platform. It does encourage the overall ecosystem having exclusive games for the platform. But it's interesting because it's all about Game Pass at the end of the day. Where Xbox is basically having this messaging where Xbox, you can play the games on your console, you can play the games on PC and mobile devices. So they're in their own sort of boat in terms of where they're going as a company for sure. I do think Indiana Jones I think people need to stop downplaying who Indiana Jones as an IP and as a character. Like a lot of people are comparing Indiana Jones to Wolverine and how Wolverine is better. If you look at the box office numbers, Indiana Jones actually makes more money than Wolverine movies, which is, it's its own category for things. I like Wolverine better as a character for sure, but I also love Indy. I do think Xbox, they do play nice in a lot of scenarios. I would like for them to not in certain cases. I do think Indiana Jones should be exclusive. However, we do know based on the wording of what Phil was saying that wherever Game Pass is where those exclusives will go. And we also know that legacy titles, right? So there may be games like Elder Scrolls Online that you may see PS5 for, or remasters of their older games, another Skyrim, whatever other Bethesda or ZeniMax titles have been in the past. Those are always open based on their language to be multi-plat. But going forward, I am confident enough to say that if there is no contract, it's going to be exclusive for the most part. Yeah. This game is very early in development. It's very early, enough that I don't think there was any contract with Sony or any exclusive rights to basically go on other platforms. I do think Microsoft is making one-on-one deals with Disney or ZeniMax at the time, right? Because this was before Microsoft acquired them. I do think they are talking to each other, and that could have been part of the contract or deals, but I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. Personally, I think it's exclusive. If you were to ask me like straight up, is Indy going to be on the PlayStation 5? I would tell you no, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen.
What if Microsoft had cut a deal like they did, with Avalanche for Contraband? What happens if this was prior to the acquisition, but Phil and Todd had been talking? Todd wanted to make an Indiana Jones game. Microsoft said, we'll fund it. Xbox said, we'll fund it. Make it exclusive. It could be one of those deals even prior to the acquisition that they had been talking about.
That makes sense. That's a great point.
Yep.
It certainly could be that way
Microsoft
too.
Funding these games also helps a lot in those cases, right? And Machine Games, they're a fantastic developer for indie. On top of all this acquisition talk, Machine Games is perfect for indie. They know how to make games killing Nazis, and that's pretty much Indiana Jones. So, on top,
the contract could have been signed before. We don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting, but there's a reason why he announced it on Phil's birthday. Phil is a big Indiana Jones fan. Todd obviously has wanted to make an Indiana Jones game for a long time. So like I said, maybe this was just one of those deals they just signed as a third party developer exclusively with Xbox prior to the whole acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible, and there's a lot of what we there's a lot about the Indiana Jones stuff that we don't know, right? We don't know if these deals were struck, but again, I'm going to say that if Microsoft has an opportunity to lock it down, I would go out of my way. And I know some people are going to say, "Hey, boom, you're being petty." You know what? That's okay. That's fine. I'll take that banner because Sony's petty. And if you want people to come to your platform, you need exclusive. Anyone that says exclusive don't matter, I'm sorry. I'll die on this hill with that. I said I get it. You can play on where you want to play, and Game Pass means a lot to a lot of people, and you don't have to pay for it. But I'm not buying that.
And competition, it's good.
Yeah,
it's great for competition. Like
it
Sony having Wolverine, having Spider-Man is great for Xbox because that will encourage possibly Phil to do more deals, right? And competition is always good.
Well, he he watches these shows. He listens and doesn't watch. Maybe he doesn't watch this particular show, but I'm not the only one talking about this. Zemi Games. Before we get everyone out of here, let's get your opinion. Where do you fall on the Indiana Jones exclusive or exclusivity, I should say?
I mean, personally, I don't care, right? Like all I care about is if I get to play the game, and the answer, regardless, is yes, right? From a business perspective, like if it's not included, if the requirement of multiplat isn't included into that contract for some strange reason, if it's not going to cost Xbox, anything or a tremendous amount of money, I say making it exclusive, right? However, what I think is more important though than just having it as an exclusive is getting it in Game Pass or getting it into a gaming service like, Game Pass as an exclusive, blocking PlayStation and Amazon and whoever else decides to come out with a game service from putting that game into their service. I think that that's more important because ultimately, regardless of where this game goes, people are going to eventually get tired of paying $60 for a game whenever Xbox is offering it into a service conveniently for you, right? I think, Xbox's biggest draw is Game Pass. And so I think what should be more important than anything is that this game does go into Xbox Game Pass on launch and stays in there. I think that that's the most important thing. More important than just having it as a console exclusive. I think getting it into Game Pass and blocking Sony and Amazon from putting it into their game services is more important than just having an exclusive. But if they can get it as a console exclusive and it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg, or it's just not, included in a contract that it has to be multiplat, then make it an exclusive, right? Ultimately, the last thing I want to see Xbox doing, though, or Microsoft doing, is I just don't want them going and spending those big, heavy dollars the way that Sony is to getting big franchises as exclusives, right? Sony kind of has to do that because they don't have the number of studios or the number of IP that Xbox has right now, right? Xbox is in a really, really great situation, especially after they bought, Bethesda. They have a lot of IP to work with. They have a ton of studios, way more than Sony does. Sony kind of has to go out and make those deals. Xbox doesn't. And I would rather see them spend their dollars buying more studios or, just making, making, even new games for me to play, right? Or getting other third-party games into Game Pass that I don't have to pay for. I would rather them use their money, to do those types of things rather than go and spend an exorbitant amount of money just to block Sony players from being able to play an Indiana Jones game. So long as it's in Game Pass, I'm going to be happy, right? And ultimately, so long as personally, so long as I get to play it, I'm going to be happy. But that's just kind of how I feel about it, right? Like, I don't think it is super, super important that it's an exclusive. If they can get it and it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg, go for it, right? But I just don't want to see them spending a large, ridiculous amount of money on getting, other franchises as first-party games for their platform. I just don't think it's needed. I think what's more important than that is just making sure that it's in Game Pass for the consumers, because that's their golden goose at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true, but again, and I agree with you. Getting into Game Pass super important, but getting people that are not subscribed to your service, you need an enticing carrot. Day and date is a great word, right? Oh, Game Pass day and date, but when you can go play that game on another console,
Yeah.
maybe you don't go to Game Pass. Maybe you lose a sub. People are like, well, yeah, I don't want to. But I'm not saying you should be the Gestapo and force people into a platform they don't want. But I'm sorry if you're looking to sell subs to new people because they got us already. We're all paying for Game Pass, so they don't care. They're trying to have new players invest in the platform, and the only way you do that is to give people something that they can't play anywhere else. And i.e., just look at what Sony's doing. Again, we can go around in circles for 2 more hours, but folks, this has been the show. Real quick, Reggie Mobile 9 drops an outstanding, very generous $5 super chat and says, "Great show, Boom and Xbox Factor panel. I don't think it's a necessity. However, if they can, I think that they should make indie an exclusive." And I 100% agree. Of course, I want to thank all of these super chats that have come in. RNF drops an additional $2 super chat and says, "The new indie film will grow the game's buzz as well." 100%, yeah. If that film ever releases, they just stopped filming because everyone got sick. So they're having some problems over there. And obviously, Harrison Ford hurt his shoulder and had to have surgery to fix it. That guy's been getting beat up. He's come back for Star Wars. He broke his leg. Comes back to Indy, messes up his shoulder. I mean, he is getting kind of up there, but we love him nonetheless. But listen, let's get to the outros. We'll get everyone out of here. Big thank you to the near 300 people we had here today. Hopefully you enjoyed the program enough. If you're new, please consider subscribing to Double Barrel Gaming. We are under 200 away from 9,000 subs, and it would be great to get there. I'd love to hit the 10K before the end of the year. We'll see. But if you are new, please consider subscribing. A big shout out to all of the super chats that have come in today. And of course, the near 300 people. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. Zemi Games, let's start with you. Please tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media. But more importantly, check out your YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So my YouTube channel is called Constant Gamer. I post a bunch of gaming related videos there. So gaming news, tutorials, let's plays, so on and so forth, just tons of gaming content. So if you don't care, definitely drop by the YouTube channel. Once again, it's called Constant Gamer. Watch some videos. If you like what you see, click the subscribe button. And then you guys can also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. And I post gaming news on there if I find an article that I like, or if I'm playing a certain game that I think people should definitely check out. Recently I've been playing Life is Strange True Colors. Absolutely been just tearing it up, loving it. I actually already 100%ed it. And so that's just the type of content that I post on Twitter, just personal stuff, and if I find a cool article, a gaming related article. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, definitely go and check out my Twitter as well. Once again, that's at Zimmy Games. Boom. As always, fantastic show. Really enjoy these topics, man. And I'll see you next Tuesday.
Absolutely, brother. And thanks so much for being here. Pong Soul, let's get you on out of here, brother. Please tell everyone where they can check you out. What are the shows you're on and what you got going on Saturday mornings?
Yes, sir. Boom. Great show. Tuesday started off with a bang here on Xbox Factor Podcast. Love being here. 3-bit. Glad I was here for your last show for a while, brother. Can't wait to get you back, man. Obviously, I know how busy you are behind the scenes, so you just take care of that business, man, and real life stuff, and we'll get you back here soon. Zemi, Boom, it was awesome. As always, chat, you guys were amazing. Some really good discussions in there, and love the topics today. This is good stuff as always. Nothing but love and respect to all of you that come out each and every week to support us and do what we love here. So you can find me, Pong Soul, everywhere, Twitter, Xbox, you know the drill. Friday nights, Xbox Ultimate over on Fun Speculations channel, aka Mav, his amazing wife, Caitlin, of course, 3-bit, and the rest of the Magnificent Seven. We'll see how many of us are going to be there this week, but shout out to Lupa. Hope she's getting better, and hopefully get her back soon. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, Xbox Ultimate, Friday nights. Saturday mornings, like Boom just talked about, Steel Rain, my brother from another, and I, living split screen, all one word. Come check us out. Set your alarms. You don't have to be wide awake. We'll supply the energy. We'll supply the talking points. Just have us on. We're going to have a great time. 4 hours last week, he and I broke down the entire Sony show game by game. So we are ridiculous. We laugh at ourselves for how long and how much we can talk. But check us out, Living Split Screen, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time. And then Saturday nights, the Shop Podcast with PTK, Blam, Centurion, Fuzzy Belvedere, and maybe Staggerilla is going to be coming back soon as well. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, 6 p.m. Arizona time, as PTK likes to say. It's a quick show, usually about an hour, hour and a half. But, man, we have some good times over there. So come check us out there. That's the Shop Podcast. I'll be back here next Tuesday, as always. Hey, if anybody out there is looking for a Tenchu style game, anybody of the old guys and old gals in here that remember Tenchu, Origami, go check out Origami. Origami 2 is coming out this week. Steele and I just beat Origami 1 co-op. It is a fantastic co-op game. Origami 2 is dropping into Game Pass end of this week. Fantastic game. Go check that out. But otherwise, it is the golden age of gaming. So please continue to enjoy this amazing time to be a gamer. Play what you love what you play, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. And of course, last and no way least, 3-Bit, you're going to be making an exit stage left, but we'll return. Please tell everyone where they can reach out to you, strike up a conversation on social media, but more importantly, where can they check out your YouTube channel and what other work you got going on?
Yeah. Thanks so much for putting me on this show again. It's always been an honor, and love talking games with everybody outside of what I do, which is development and animation stuff. People can catch up with me on Twitter at it was the VGHD. Now it's i3bit. I keep saying the VGHD, but now it's i3bit on Twitter as my new handle. Everyone can follow me. I do shenanigans on there. I'm still playing games with everybody occasionally. So we've been playing like Red Dead Redemption. That's been a blast, tying people up and putting them on train tracks. Lately, I just been playing Deathloop, and that's going to be a good time. But if you guys want to just catch up with me, whatever I'm doing, animations, occasional game streams and stuff like that, you can follow me there. And also videos coming up eventually on my channel, the Video Games HD.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely see it's always going to be open and available for whenever you have the time to come back. And of course, we'll be talking in the DMs as always. Listen, folks, thank you so much for coming out and spending your Tuesday afternoon with this incredible panel, with these incredible topics. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's super important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my father taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday's newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.